Hey everybody, welcome back to another Ninja RMM MSP live chat. I am Jonathan Crow, I'm Director of Content and Community here at Ninja RMM, and I've got with me, look at this full panel of folks, a full screen Brady Bunch style. We've got some familiar faces for anyone who's been on live chats before. First of all, we got Tom Watson, our channel chief advisor. How's it going, Tom?
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Yeah, and we've got Dom Scafidi, he's our content manager. Dom, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too.
And then we have a very special guest. And so, first of all, we've got Art Gross. He is president and CEO of Breach Secure Now. Art, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it, and we've been having some great conversations. So I think this is going to be a great discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to give both of you guys a chance to say a little bit more about yourselves and why we're so excited to have you both here. But before we do that, Art, David, I want to introduce you. You're David Jansen, VP of Global Sales for the MSP and MSSP division at Cofense. David, thanks so much for being here from across the pond.
Oh, delighted to be here. I'm looking forward to a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. David, you were excited to see some folks, someone from Wales here. We were commenting in the green room about it's awesome to see folks coming in, being in the chat, saying where everyone's from. We got a great presence here. And good to see familiar faces, including some folks that I haven't seen on the chat in a while. So thank you so much for calling in, guys. For anyone who is new to MSP Live Chats, hasn't been on one of these before, this is a pretty informal offering. We like to say that this is an opportunity to hear from experts, of course, but also connect with each other. So definitely get into the chat, ask each other questions. We're going to be talking about phishing, security awareness training. I'm sure a lot of people here on the call are going to have varying degrees of experience with that. Leverage it. Leverage our experts here, but also leverage each other in terms of asking questions of how you guys are rolling things out, problems you're having, solutions, all that good stuff. So that said, definitely use the chat. If you have questions that you definitely want us and want Art and David to answer, use the ask a question function, which is down at the bottom there. Also down at the bottom, you'll see that we've dropped a few different polls, and I see that people are already answering those. Thanks so much for doing that. This is going to be great to give us some things to react to here, and really just kind of curious to see where everybody's at in terms of their situations with security awareness training. So this is kind of interesting to see. So thank you so much for taking time to drop in and answer some of those polls. We'll get back to those in a second. The last thing I'll mention in terms of housekeeping, well, a couple things. First of all, this is being recorded. That's the most popular question, right? And the cool thing about Crowdcast, this platform that we're using, is about a minute or two after we're done here, you can actually just keep this link and you can refresh it, and the recording will be available there. We'll also post to YouTube, and we're going to be following up with everybody with an email that's got our agenda and resources doc, which I'm about to share with you, and also a link to the recording. So the agenda and resources doc, this is our fancy high-tech Google Doc. It's basically our show notes here, right? And so you've got links if you want to keep the conversation going with us. We would love to hear from you. There's our emails. You've also got links to learn more about Art and David and get in touch with their teams. We've got some troubleshooting things. If anyone experiences trouble anytime or things are lagging with Crowdcast, it's not quite the turn it off, turn it back on solution I'm going to suggest, but try refreshing. That seems to work things out most of the time. And then we kind of have an agenda of things. Before we get into that, though, I want to give you a little sneak peek. Let's scroll down a little bit. We got giveaways, my friends. Giveaways. And this first one, so someone here on the call, thank you for taking the time. In addition to getting some great insights, resources, one person is also going to walk away with this amazing inflatable shark. Remote controlled too. So I used to, a previous job before Ninja, we had one of these in the office, and I know not everyone's back in the office now, but if and when that does happen for you guys, you should definitely have this, bring it along, because this thing is actually way more awesome than it has any right to be. So we're gonna send someone this along with a tank of helium, which Dom was like, do they ship helium? And Amazon apparently does. So Bezos, he goes to space, he ships helium, he does it all. So we'll get you guys one of those. The other thing I want to call out really quickly, so this is a cool opportunity that we are engaging in. for those who aren't familiar, the Cybercall is another virtual kind of live chat session like this one. It's offered every week from Andrew Morgan, who's been in the channel for a long time. And they've got some familiar faces there that kind of keep on recurring. Gary Pika, Ryan Weeks from Dado, and others. And it's security focused. And that happens every Monday. They have launched a new initiative, and they've gotten a bunch of vendors, including Ninja, to get involved in this. And it's called Level Up, MSP Security Training Challenge. Basically, we have a goal. Hear all the time, security needs to be a bigger focus. There's a talent shortage. Well, why don't we help solve that talent shortage by training the folks we got, the great folks who are already in the channel? Let's get people access to more security training for those who want it. And so we're playing a part in that. And the way we're doing it is there's this great security course offered by John Tran at Black Hills Information Security. Super well-respected outfit based out of the Dakotas. And they have a course that they offer that vendors have been able to contribute to allow you to get a discount for it. So there's that, and you can get information about how to receive that discount. There's also tuition assistance available, and this is a big portion of the Ninja element of this, how we're supporting. So we contribute some funds that have going into a general fund to help people who need some tuition assistance get in there, because we don't want money to be the barrier of people getting security training. So that's something that we're doing. In addition to that, I'm going to go right back up to our document. We also have a certain amount of slots that we can give away. And so we're going to give one of those away here. So in addition to someone getting the inflatable shark, remote control shark, we also want to give away one slot for this training course that's going to be happening at the end of the month. So we're going to be picking that at random from the attendees here. So stick around to the end. We're going to be announcing both of those winners there. Okay, I've been blabbing a ton. So I'm going to give, the last thing I'm going to do before I shut up and pass the mic is drop a link to this document. So everyone has it. And again, you can keep this, refer to it after the fact. It's got links to a lot of great resources here that we'll point out. But a lot of good stuff. So this is a good document to keep hold of. With all that said, I want to kick it back over to Art and David. And David, why don't we start with you? I mean, we talked about how we wanted to get this conversation going. And phishing, I mean, this is not a tale quite as old as time, but I mean, this has been a big, huge focus in security for years now. And while we see all these innovations in terms of high-tech exploits, all these new hacking techniques, it turns out emailing people and asking them for their credentials still works quite well. And of course, that's not to say things have not changed there. So I wanted to turn over to you to give a sense kind of what you guys are seeing, and that can be in terms of what's new, in terms of trends. We're going to get into specific examples of some cool, when I say cool, obviously that's with a big asterisk, but some innovative phishing techniques that we're going to share. But in terms of lay of the land, I mean, I've shared some Verizon data breach statistics there. 85% of breaches still involve a human element. Almost 2/3 involved stealing credentials. In comparison, 3% of breaches that Verizon at least responded to involved vulnerabilities getting exploited. So I'll kick it back over to you, sir. What are you guys seeing over at Cofense in terms of the larger lay of the land and trends?
Well, it's interesting what you said there in terms of, good old email remains this huge exploit opportunity. When our co-founders originally started the company, people doubted why they were embarking on the journey that they were. This was 9 years ago, and people were saying, well, email won't be a thing 10 years from now, so you won't have a business. But I think we all know that email is here to stay. And yeah, sure, there are other forms of communication, but email remains just that most commonly used B2B communication channel. And why come up with something super sophisticated and super costly when you can, as a threat actor, take a cheaper, just as effective approach? And so I think email and phishing attacks, will continue to be a problem for a long, long time to come. But at Cofense, we're in the fortunate position of really seeing in high volume the phishing attacks that are successfully reaching user inboxes. So that gives us some really good perspective on trends of not just what threat actors are attempting, but what is actually proving to be successful. And if we look at back at the whole of calendar year 2020, we did see an ever-increasing shift towards credential phishing being the most prevalent form of phishing attacks. In 2020, 57% of all the emails that we observed landing in customer inboxes were credfish. And that continues to increase as a trend. So in Q1 of 2021, that number had crept up to 78%. And when you think about that in the context of, and if I can just share my screen, I can just show some data. It's not letting me share.
Yeah, sorry, I think I was hogging that function, but I've backed off now. So the stage is all yours. You should be able to share now, David.
Let me see if I can do this then. Hold on.
And while you're doing that, I'll just to plug a thing for you too. I mean, you guys, if you check out the doc, everyone on the call here, Cofense does have an annual report that we've got a link to, and they provided a link right to the PDF for that. So thank you guys for that. And then you also guys, they have some quarterly and maybe even monthly reports too. So lots of cool stats to David's point here.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up this. Through operating actually a managed security service of our own, we're actually analysing millions of emails that are reaching the inboxes of some of our customers. And we're able then to draw a lot of conclusions from that. And we'll talk about some of those over the course of the next few minutes. But we're also able to take samples of malicious emails that have been known to bypass some of the bigger brands of secure email gateway. And we're then able to offer a service where we can send those emails undefanged, fully weaponized at those gateways, targeting an inbox which just auto forwards back to us. And so through doing this, we can see how the secure email gateways are performing with different attack types. And going back to the statistic earlier of 57% increasing to 78% in Q1 of 2021 of all phishing attacks being credfish, well, partly that's because threat actors are choosing that attack type more often, and partly it's because secure email gateways are far less successful at detecting malicious URLs than they are, for example, malicious attachments. So you can see on the left-hand side of this that gateways are doing a reasonable job at identifying malware inside attachments or malicious attachments. They're doing a far less good job of being able to detect malicious URLs. And in fact, all of the sort of the main players in the secure email gateway space are missing roughly half of all malicious URLs. And the reasons for this, are plentiful, but it's largely because they're relying on pretty outdated capabilities to rely on denial lists or blacklists. Is this domain known bad? But as I'm sure a lot of people on this call understand, with credential harvesting attacks and fake login pages, they either tend to be very transitory in nature, or it's an exploited legitimate domain that's being used to house those login pages. And so relying on denial lists just simply isn't going to be sufficient. And that's really where the danger comes in, and why it's so important to think about layering in other technology that perhaps is better able to detect malicious URLs, or, as the subject of this discussion is to make sure that users are adequately prepared and know what real phishing looks like, so that when it happens for real, they're ready to do something about it.
Thank you so much for that, David. And Art, I want to kick it over to you. We saw some numbers there from David and kind of underscoring why this is a big issue still. And of course, this is going to be good for everyone here on the call to be reinforced, right? But it's also good in terms of, we want to show, wanted to bring you guys on here to show like what are the latest threats to MSPs themselves, because we all know everyone here in the channel is just increasingly a target. But also, how can we inform these stories for end clients and for customers? Because if we look at this poll here, down at the bottom, we're seeing some common pushback, we're seeing that there's quite a few folks who are able to offer security awareness training and others who aren't. But anyway, I want to kick it back over to you to give some insight. What are you guys seeing over there? What do you think is going on in terms of some bigger trends?
I think the first slide, the first numbers that you showed, that humans make the most mistakes. They're the cause of all the breaches, and really it's only 3% of technical vulnerabilities. Yet most MSPs are focusing on the technology component, and most SMBs, their clients, they just want the MSP to implement technology and just be done with it. Can't we just buy a firewall and be done? So I think that's really telling that we have to switch the whole perception of this is humans that are making mistakes. We have to train them, as David was saying. We have to train them because what, some of these attachments are going to get through. Some of these links are going to get through, and it's a matter of, will that employee know what to do when that happens? And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have. And as MSPs, that's the message that has to go back. Another stat that I find pretty amazing is they say there's billions of emails sent every day. There's billions of users, so that's not hard to believe. But there's 135 million phishing emails sent every day. So, SMBs don't think they're going to be targeted, right? They say, oh, we're too small, we're not going to be targeted. But the truth is, maybe they won't be targeted, but an employee can, just be a victim of a random phishing attack, fall for it, and then cause a data breach. So I think it's important to acknowledge that fact that SMBs are, victims. And it's because, it's not how small you are. It's really how many employees do you have on the internet using email and being untrained. So I think it's an important message to deliver to those SMB clients.
Absolutely. Well, here I've got a question that just came in from Daniel. Daniel, thanks for this one. He's wondering, who else is using their newsletters or tech tip emails to advance security awareness training. And maybe the way that that would be great to know for everyone in the chat. If you guys do this, it'd be very interesting. Help Daniel out, let him know what you guys are doing. But for Art, this is one of those things I hear people talking about a lot where, showing examples and being current, responding to things that are in the news, obviously good opportunities to remind people and that threats are out there and to give them some training. How do you balance that with overkill? Because I see people concerned about this too, right? That if you send enough emails that are just kind of, not crying wolf, obviously, but just not like knocking those same points over and over again, do you risk kind of getting people to tune out? Any suggestions about that?
Yeah, I think you do. I think, and I think you have to pick and choose the information you share. SMB is someone who's a small doctor's office or a two-lawyer law firm, doesn't really relate to the Colonial, ransomware attack that shut down the whole gas line in the East Coast United States. That doesn't resonate with them. All right. That kind of almost confirms, hey, this is not going to happen to me. They're going after hospitals. They're going after, core infrastructure. So I think what you have to do is you have to pick those breaches that are relatable. Like if you support clients in the legal field, those are the pieces. This happens to companies that look like you. If you support healthcare, this happens to small medical practices. So I think that is really important. And just flooding clients with statistics and breaches, and it happens. People just tune out. They don't believe it, because if you don't really want to believe it, you'll use a piece of information that'll tell you, oh, it only happens to large companies, or it only happens to another, vertical, and it doesn't happen to me. So I think it's important to deliver the right information that is relevant to clients, and that they can say, wow, this could really happen. And once someone says it really maybe could happen, then they're very open to, implementing the safeguards. But if they don't believe it, it doesn't matter what you charge or even giving it away. They just won't use it.
Tom, I want to bring up, you mentioned right before this that a good example, right? Going back to that timely element. I mean, you had a point about
Yeah.
the T-Mobile stuff, right?
Well, yeah. Here's one for you guys. I have a T-Mobile cell phone. I don't know yet. I haven't been contacted by T-Mobile, but I'm sitting there going, they're going to have my social security number. They're going to have some other details, my IMI. These allow phishing attacks to be much more sophisticated because they can come at me with knowledge. What do you see happening out of that?
I mean, I think that is the biggest problem. It's all of these breaches. So if you take an individual, they have so much information about you. They know your email, they have passwords, they have, where you work, where you live, phone numbers, social security, credit information. So the attacks that happen to individuals, is just unbelievable. We saw a lot of that with the sextortion, right? I mean, I don't want to get into the details of that, where they were using passwords that were found in other breaches. So, once you see your password, that becomes much more credible. So think about spear phishing at scale, right? Where all of a sudden you send to 1 million users information that is specific to them. I mean, it's petrifying, the thought of it. I'm surprised we haven't seen it more. But I think it's that danger. And, I know this is all about phishing and training, but it's not just phishing. It's phone calls. It is those other types of scams using personal information that is really dangerous. And I think, Tom, that was a great point. It's all of this data that's out there that can be used against, employees and individuals.
Man, Tony just brings up a great point echoing this, saying that there's a client that's under constant attack because years ago they were victims of ransomware. And we see the stats on that all the time, that once you're a victim, the odds of you being a victim again skyrocket, right? So maybe that's part of it too. One other thing, I want to get into the examples, and maybe we could just go ahead and do that now, because the examples, like, maybe the folks on the call are like this too. This is the kind of stuff I geek out about. Is like, I want to see like the latest tricky techniques. But to bring it back to having these conversations with clients, I kind of wonder, like, is this stuff that I'm interested in, but they're not going to be? Like, how effective is it to be showing, like, okay, here, hey, like, Mr. Customer, this is like how sophisticated this stuff can be. Again, is it kind of like a balance of it has to be relevant still, and you're having to pick and choose when you do that? What do you think? Let's turn it over to you, David. Any thoughts on that in terms of, like, how the line, I guess, between maybe even FUD, like, how much we're really hammering in, like, stuff is super scary out there. On one hand, it is, and they need to know that. On the other hand, I could see how it could turn them off.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we always say is that if you're going to run a phishing simulation program, then make sure that the templates you're using actually represent what real phishing looks like. Might seem like a controversial thing to say, might seem like an obvious thing to say, but if you invest time and effort running a phishing simulation where the templates that you're choosing are the figment of somebody's imagination, then you're now spending time and money training users on what phishing doesn't look like, which is arguably worse than doing nothing. So it's really important to keep abreast of what current phishing trends are. Not to worry too much about those outliers, those really scary examples, but to think about what are the common themes, what are the common laws, what are the common TTPs, and help ensure that the simulation keeps pace with the threat landscape. 2 years ago, organizations should probably, on the basis that ransomware was a majority percentage of all phishing attacks, would hopefully have been spending the majority of their simulation and training based on ransomware-based examples. But now, with that shift towards credential harvesting, if nearly 3/4 of fish are credential harvesting, then really 3/4 of our phishing simulations should arguably be based on credential harvesting techniques accordingly.
Yeah, great point. And that brings back to just the credential harvesting, and then the other thing that was mentioned, I think, by Art, business email compromise. I mean, that's another one that, like, it's been around forever. People kind of, it gets the limelight stolen by ransomware, right? But I mean, it's a huge threat. And that's another one of these things where, if it's all about disabling macros and protecting against ransomware and all that stuff, that's great. But you still have an insane amount of attempts for spoofing a CEO's account, asking for a wire transfer, and getting that made.
Exactly. I mean, it's a lot easier, right? Instead of having to do ransomware just to get an employee to transfer money to you if you're a criminal. So, I think, if you start to look at all of it, it's not just ransomware, it's not just business email compromise, it's not just tech scams trying to get remote access, it's all of it. And that's really where training is really important. You have to get that employee to question every call, question every email, question every, request. And, I hate to say it, you have to be very paranoid, but that is what you have to do from a training perspective. You have to get, awareness. So we call it awareness training, security awareness training. But employees who don't know that criminals are going to call and try to, take over your PC or try to get you to transfer money or try to, steal your credentials, they're the ones that fall for it over and over and over again. And it's really important that total education is bestowed upon these employees, and that's where successful security awareness training programs are, happen. We were talking about it before. I just wanted to talk about, the borderline between having, really good phishing emails and then really alienating employees. Because if you think about it, phishing is something that you're trying to trick somebody into doing something. And if you, as an MSP, are doing, simulated phishing, theoretically, you're trying to get employees to fall for your simulated phishing. I know why you want to do it, right? Because you want to train them, but you also want to show weakness to your clients. But at the same time, your employees or those employees of those clients are now alienated. They're turned off. So you have to be very careful on what you're doing, how much you're doing. And then, we've read in the news some of these phishing attacks where they're giving away, bonuses at Christmas, and then they get laid off the next day, or some of the staff gets laid off. If you don't do this right, you can alienate your whole employee base, and that is the worst thing to do, because you really want to get these employees to care about protecting the company and not just going through the training for the sake of training.
Yeah, and if I could just build on that, Art, because I agree with a lot of what you just said there. We recommend that best practice is to always announce the start of a phishing simulation program before it's started. Send out a notification to all employees in an organization and let them know that essentially phishing is a very human problem, right? It originates from humans, threat actors. It's targeting humans, the end users. And so it's a problem that by definition can't be solved by technology alone. And so we do need to harness the end users as a core layer in the defense against this problem. And as long as people know why a phishing simulation program is being run, really the primary objective of doing this is not to test, is not to actually to measure click rates. It's actually to cause people to be more resilient, ready to report an email they think is suspicious rather than interact with it. And as long as people know that they're being harnessed for something they're good at, right? Because it is all too easy for the industry to say humans are the weakest link. But actually, if you think about the phishing problem, technology has failed, right? In order for a user to have an email sat in their inbox. A user to have a phishing email sat in their inbox, right? So technology's already failed. So it's very harsh to then blame the humans as the cause of breaches when they interact. So it's about harnessing them, saying, we need your help. And this is about preparing you to basically use the skills you were born with. Because all human beings, we have our hackles. And hairs go up on the back of our neck when we think something isn't right. And that's really just that natural human instinct we want to trigger, to cause just a momentary delay to a user when they're looking at an email to say, is this really what it looks like? Or should I be thinking about reporting this so somebody can do something about it?
Because what we're doing is we're actually educating, we're training employees. And that's, if you think about how you learn in school, you took a piece of information, you took a quiz, you learned more information, you took a quiz, then you took a test. Part of a security awareness program is you are educating. So we're training you. We're testing you with phishing. If you don't do great, we'll train you more. So if you can put it into that perspective, that we're actually educating you, and this is part of the process, I think you can get buy-in from those employees. And we're not just tricking you. We're not going to punish you if you fail. I mean, we have close to 2,000 partners, and some of our partners, all they want to do is get these employees to fail so they can prove that they need more technology at that client. And that's, we try to really steer them away and say, what, let's work with those employees, get them as part of that culture so they care. You'll be much more successful. Now, with that said, I think employee security is the greatest way to sell technology, right? Because, no matter how much you train an employee and test them and phish them, they can still make a mistake, right? Anyone at a given moment can make a mistake. So it's easy to go to a client and say, what, we're doing everything we can to make these employees secure. But if they make a mistake, that's where I need, my air gap data backup. That's where I need, MFA. That's where I need the rest of the technology. So it's a great lead in to sell other security by leveraging the employee mistakes. And any SMB owner who has employees know their employees make mistakes. I had never seen a business owner say, no, not my employees. They say the wrong things to clients. They email the wrong things. So I think we can leverage that to help sell the rest of the technology stack.
To err is human, right? But let's get into this point, because man, I'm so excited to look at these examples because I think they're cool and I'm going to geek out about them. But we keep on getting these very relevant questions from the chat here, and so I want to bring up what Brian Cook is dealing with. And Brian, thanks so much for talking about this in the chat. So he's bringing up the problem. Speaking of security stack, and it's awesome to hear you can leverage this to help you get more buy-in for that. But he's got clients with price sensitivities, and he just laid mandatory EDR and I'm sorry, what was it, Brian? Something else on him where he had to raise prices 10%. And now he's hearing, obviously he's on this call, he's interested in security awareness. Maybe he's not providing that yet. But as an additional thing, any recommendations for you guys for going back to another client that you just raised prices on, you need more security? This is the game, right? This is the whole challenge that happens all the time across the board, not just with security awareness training, but just balancing the stack in general. Tom, I'm going to kick it over to you first, sir, because I know you got experience with this and you got thoughts on it.
Yeah, I would just say to that, first of all, to Brian, I don't think you're going to get sued if you ask someone to do something security related, particularly if it's in your agreement and it's a requirement. If anything, if they're not going to do it, you have a reason that they breached the contract, and to then go back to them about the contract or cancel it. And my recommendation regarding anything security-wise is that you lay it out very clearly in that contract and you enforce it. And the ones that don't want to do it, they're probably not worth it to you because the liability is so high. And I think that someone like Art can probably speak to that, of what the outcome could be.
Well, and oh, sorry, Art, if you don't mind, I'll just interrupt for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because and people in the chat make this point too, and it's so true. These customers that aren't willing to do it, that risk isn't just going away. That risk is going somewhere, and guess what? It's going back on you. But that also, I always have a reaction to this where I have sensitivity towards the MSP of the all or nothing approach is in a way it's kind of a privileged position to be in, right? You need to be able to have clients, you can't just get rid of them all. And so I wonder if there's this is where QBRs or planning roadmaps come into play, where it's okay, this isn't going to happen today. We did this portion of it. You just agreed to the EDR and the DNS filtering. I saw that, Brian. Thank you for adding that. That's awesome. You guys did that. That's great. We're in a good position. Our work's not done. You've got employees make mistakes. Let's fix that up in whatever quarter it is. But basically making sure it's out there and agreed to in a way, maybe that's another approach.
It definitely is. And I think one of the problems that you have is that ransomware is this scary thing, and SMBs don't actually understand what it is, right? Oh, well, we'll get ransom encrypted. Well, you're backing up my network. We'll be fine. Yeah, well, what if your cloud-based EHR is ransomed? What if your CRM is ransomed? What I think MSPs have to do is peel back the layers of what ransomware really means, right? If you have it from a financial perspective, this is what happens. This is your downtime. How much will it cost if you can't collect money for 2 weeks? Can you pay your employees? And if you have to do breach notification, and if you have to do forensics. So when you start to peel back the expense of an employee making a mistake and causing this outcome, going back and saying we need to layer on additional, security becomes a much easier conversation. If it's just, status quo and you're just going to charge me more, there's going to be a lot of pushback. So I think it's really, really important to, do those tabletop walkthroughs with your clients and show them, here are the expenses: downtime, data forensics, breach notification, credit monitoring. And that is a scary number when you start to look at that. Here are the things that we have to do to lower that. And it's funny, going back to the beginning risks, if you look, it's all human related. Why are we spending money on the technology, which we actually have to? But we have to. I think convincing on security awareness training is easier than all the rest of the technology, because SMBs can understand what that is and lowering that risk of the employees making a mistake.
Thank you for that, Art. And Mikey, I mean, you're making great points in the chat there, buddy, and it's awesome that you and Tom are kindred spirits. But Dom, I want to tee you up, sir. So let's get into those examples, right? And I know that you have one of them. You actually were talking with some folks internally that had a former MSP background, and they were sharing some kind of interesting examples. I'll kick it over to you.
Sure. Let me share my screen here real quick. This is an example that, Art talks about, that paranoia. This would definitely be a paranoia-inducing experience. This recent attack, a hacker obtained a legitimate free trial account for 365 email address. And with that, then they kind of created some layers behind that account to make this attack seem so much more realistic. They created this OneNote notebook and then kind of made a fake logo of a PDF file, and then had a legitimate web hosting site behind that where the attacker planted malware. Then they shared that OneNote notebook to a phishing target via 365's built-in features. So let's just take a look at what this looks like here. And, you could kind of see, as you kind of said at the beginning of this call, in the morning, if you're maybe a little sleepy, you wake up, you see this, it looks pretty legitimate, coming from Microsoft 365, request for proposal. Open up this link. Then following that, you see that, maybe in my opinion, slightly outdated Adobe PDF icon, but it looks legitimate. Click on that, takes the user to the OneNote. And then you have what seems to be reputable, but contains that malicious content. And then what makes it even more legitimate is it's going to prompt you for that login here at the bottom. So it's actually going to prompt you for your login information and prompt you to sign in. That kind of further prevents that automated analysis. So this is just, one example of the latest kind of phishing trends we see.
And if I could make a comment on that.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here is a multi-layering of this phishing attack. But ultimately, what's being rendered in front of the user is something that's seeking credentials, right? And threat actors, there's a trade-off occurring here, because when you present an attack like this to a user with multiple steps that they need to follow, that's multiple opportunities for somebody to realize that something might not be right about this email. But they're trading that off, because by multi-layering it like this, they are essentially guaranteeing that it will reach the inbox. And that's because the way secure email gateways work is that they're not able to follow a multi-layered phishing attack like that. They might they might inspect the initial attachments. If there's a link inside that, they can't follow that link. They may be able to see if that domain exists on a deny list somewhere, but they can't follow it. Moreover, they can't look at the resultant page. Now, human beings can look at stuff, right? And when we look at emails, we can make determinations about whether something's not right or not. You mentioned about that Adobe logo maybe being slightly off.
Yeah.
Does that Microsoft login page, is that actually the real one, or is it a fake rendering of it? Now, there's a chance that as humans we can see that because we're able to get to that end page and make a determination. What's interesting is that whilst this is about the end user and preparing them, there is technology on the market now that utilizes computer vision, which is able to emulate how humans look at emails. And it's able to follow these multi-layered attacks. And these technologies, and we have one of them, is something that you can layer in behind the native email protection within O365 or Google Workspace. I can do this technology emulating how humans look at emails to actually go and see, well, I can see the URL. I can see that this is a Microsoft login page. Actually, I know this is the genuine. I know this looks exactly pixel perfect, because I can compare that to an image I previously took. But in the context of looking at it in the context of a domain that's actually some kind of exploited page on some non-Microsoft domain, those two things married together mean I can determine safely that that's a phish. So I just wanted to make that comment that they are multi-layered like this because threat actors have decided that's the best way of ensuring the emails get delivered.
Right.
Yeah, let me tee up another one for you guys to comment on. So this is another one. Microsoft wrote about this one back in April, but I've seen some other headlines more recent than that. Basically taking advantage of Contact Us forms. So how many folks on the line here have a Contact Us form on your website? Does it have a comment field? If it does, here's what these guys are doing. They're entering in the Contact Us form. They're entering in a long message here, boop, with a link inside the comment section. And the example here is basically someone posing as, be it a photographer or some kind of content owner, right? Saying like, hey, there's an image on your site, you violated my copyright. Here is the example for you to see it, and that's when you get the link. And so basically what this is doing is bypassing, it's another way of what David's talking about, right? It's basically this email, by coming through your form, it has a better chance of getting through filters. So this I thought was, again, like maybe not something that we're going to see all over the place or super widespread, but just another example of kind of interesting pivot by attackers of trying to do out different techniques and getting around filters.
Yeah, the usage of capture is something that is becoming more prevalent. And again, it's just another obfuscation technique. It's another layer that makes it essentially impossible for traditional secure email gateways to get to seeing what the actual attack might be.
We've got Dave here in the comments saying he's had several clients get that exact same message. I mean, that's what's Art. You mentioned sextortion too, and some of these things like. You see them one place, you see them a ton, right? I mean, the whole point of these campaigns is that they're mass attempts. I'll bring up one other one really quickly. So this is, Palo Alto is writing up this one too. Microsoft also had one last month, a blog post that kind of gave some more details about this. But this is Bazaar Loader, which is known as kind of one of those first initial access Trojans that will often tee up ransomware, right? It's been connected to various ransomware families. And what they're showing here is that they're taking that extra step, to David's point. Like every additional step is a chance for failure on their part, right? But they're taking that trade-off as a way to get around filters. And so in this case, instead of sending an email directly that has the link or an attachment or even a link, it's actually just got instructions that the victim needs to call a support line. And Art, this goes to your point, right?
Yep.
Once that's there, they actually have a fake call center with people who are trained and actually very convincing at their job. And they convince someone to download an Excel spreadsheet that way that has macros. And then we're seeing the standard routine from there. But again, it's just another way to get around that initial gateway filtering, right?
One of the things that we've been talking about, like harvesting credentials, what I've found interesting is there's a division of labor. There's literally criminals that all they do is harvest credentials. That's all they do. They're not ransomware people. They don't try to, have remote access Trojans there. All they do is get credentials. So they specialize in phishing. They specialize in trying to trick an employee, and then they sell that to the ransomware gangs. So think about it. I mean, you have such a specialization that people are really good at tricking you and figuring out these multi-steps so I can capture your credentials. I don't have to do anything else other than sell it. And then you sell it to some of the ransomware as a service. They take that, they get in, and then the rest is history. So I think it's petrifying when you actually peel back the layers of there's such sophistication and specialization. And these scams get better and better and more sophisticated. I mean, it's a $1 trillion economy. So you think about it, the best people in the world are being hired. And they're up against, the person at the front desk, right? Who, we won't call them the weakest link, but they may not be trained. They may not be sophisticated. And these things change on a daily basis. So, training, the other thing about training is it's not one and done. It's continuous training. And I think that's a really important aspect of that message to clients, that we have to continue to fortify these employees. Otherwise, they'll be a victim, even if we trained them 6 months ago.
May I show something else, which I think might be of interest to people just
absolutely
momentarily. So it's becoming increasingly easy for anyone to become a sophisticated threat actor, even if they're not. This is no, that's the wrong window. My apologies.
No worries.
Already shown that. Sorry, not overly familiar with this. There we go.
No, quite all right.
Yeah. So this is. Can you see this?
There we go. It's coming up for a sec. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So this is no longer a phishing kit, loitering around on the dark web available for purchase. This is a phishing kit quite openly trading on the normal web, loud and proud. And this is a phishing kit that's actually got really effective credential harvesting capabilities. We've seen the emails that have been sent by this in the inboxes of some large global organizations protected by some of the best technology that can be bought. And we alerted the authorities about the availability of this a long time ago. It's still completely active. The malicious domains that are exfiltrating credential data have persisted for months. And so, sometimes it doesn't have to be things that are transitory to work. Sometimes it can be something that can exist for months, can be available to anyone who just wants to spend a few dollars to make a few more, to harvest some credentials, and as Art said, sell them on. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, so before we get into closing remarks here, I just want to go ahead and ask a final question, leave people with some actionable tips today. For both Art and David, how to and how not to conduct a phishing simulation. Let's not make it maybe like an employee hazing exercise, let's just say, but maybe also not make it so repetitive that we're crying wolf. So starting with Art, maybe any tips you can offer there for our audience.
Yeah, one of the things that we figured out was, you have to combine gamification, you have to combine rewards, you have to combine competitive, and one of the things we do with Breach Secure now is, we put it all together. We give everyone an employee secure score. So if you take training and you take ongoing micro trainings and you're phishing and you accepted policies, all of those things together gives you a way of strengthening yourself. So you can see your improvement. You can see your score going up. And I think it's really important. And it's funny, the employees are very competitive. You thought like Peloton and Fitbit and getting up on that leaderboard was bad. You should see when employees really care. And that's when you know you got them. When we get these angry, oh, my ESS went down 2 points, then you know you've got them engaged. And I think that's really the important part of a security awareness program, making it so employees can, feel that they're not being tricked. They don't feel like they're just being punished, but giving them the opportunities to strengthen, to show their strength, and to advance and to improve. And if you can do that, I think you'll get those employees to be, to care. The other thing is, it's not just about business, right? If you can get an employee to care about their kids, graduation videos, or their tax returns, or their photos, they will be much more concerned than someone who just cares about their spreadsheets at work. If you can get an employee to care personal and business, you've made them secure. And then once you become secure, you can't become unsecure, right? You can't say, I don't care about this anymore. It's like you live in a very paranoid world once you become secure. So I think that's important. I know, I answer a little more than just phishing, but I don't think it's just phishing. I think it's the combination of how you train people, how you reward them, and how you give them, enough information to really help themselves. No one wants to be the cause of a data breach either. So that's the other thing that we have to realize.
Great point, Art. How about you, David?
Just reiterating what I said earlier, it's something that shouldn't be a surprise sprung onto any users. It should be a pre-announced initiative where people know why it's happening and why it's important that they're actively engaged in this. To Art's point, gamification is a good thing. We talk to customers about the importance of, if users do recognize what they think is a phish and report it. Great if you can develop techniques to make sure they get feedback about that, so that they know they're being listened to, that there is potentially someone at the other end of that report actually assessing whether it might be bad or not and getting feedback. That keeps them wanting to report again. But above all, try and keep everything around a phishing simulation program, keep centered on the fact that you're really preparing for when a phishing attack happens for real, which it will. There are organizations out there who are designing features and simulation tools which I think are unhelpful. I'll give you an example of that, the idea of randomizing phishing templates. I'll send a different phishing template to different users in my organization so that one person can't warn another one, hey, have you seen that? There's one of those tests come through, don't click on it. People think that that's a good thing to have. And I just say to them, think about this. In the real world, when a phish lands, in a day when hopefully we're all back in offices, sure, you'd want one user to alert everyone around them in their pod of desks, hey, I think I've received the phish. You're trying to emulate through simulation what you want the behavior to be in the real world.
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because we hear that all the time. I don't want someone standing up and saying, oh, be careful of this. That's exactly what you want. It gets back to what I was saying before. MSPs, in a way, they want these employees to fail to show that they're the weakest link to sell managed services and managed security. It doesn't always work that way. So, you need these employees, because no matter how much technology you put in, you need these employees to help you. Otherwise, they become a liability to you. So, David, I totally agree with that.
How about you, Tom?
And Tom,
go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, and Tom, anything on this? And I saw a couple people mention in the comments here maybe how to price, these phishing exercises too.
Yeah, just like to say, I was doing a series of webinars with another vendor for MSPs a couple of years ago, and we were talking to their prospects out in the field, and we would mention security awareness training, and I would just get like this avalanche of questions. And what I found was I had to insert a few slides and really explain to them how these things go down, the architecture of one of these attacks, some of the images we've had up here, because a lot of times they just don't realize the amount of information they have about you or what goes into it. But once they really, if you spend the time and really explain to them what happens in one of these attacks and what the outcome can be, I think you'll get a lot more buy-in.
Yeah, I mean, this discussion is happening live with Brian again. You've got awesome questions, my friend. I'm so glad that you're on here and that you're asking these questions that a lot of people are dealing with, not just you. And I see we got Dan and Don responding too around pricing. And not just the pricing too, but basically the time that it's taking on the MSP side. And obviously that's where Art and David, I mean, you guys have tools that are designed to help make it more efficient, right? But yeah, I guess any other points around that with pricing, with like, for if you're an MSP and maybe you're a slightly smaller shop or you're limited with bandwidth and you're trying to, this is a good idea to roll it out there, but you're just trying to make it like, a good practical step, or you're already overwhelmed with some stuff, any last kind of remarks to help people along those lines? Art, let's start with you maybe.
Yeah, one of the things we didn't talk about, but security training and phishing, especially security awareness program, is literally the face on security. Think about it. When you sell security, you're selling a firewall that's in a computer room. You're selling antivirus that's sitting at the bottom of the taskbar. It is the face of security. It is what employees see. It is what management sees. It is probably the best way to talk about security because it's it's real. It's in front of someone. The rest of cybersecurity is really hidden. Patching is hidden, right? No one wants to see a 1,200-page vulnerability scan, right? But it is an opportunity to say, let me lead with human security so I can, show the risks of employees making mistakes and help me sell my technology. So, in a way, some of our best partners, they're just including it in their stack. They're not selling it. They're saying, I want to have the conversation on a quarterly basis, Jonathan, like you said, QBRs, and I want to start talking about this so it can help me with the rest of my security stack and my support, my managed services.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're kind of running right on the time here, and I want to give you each a chance to point out where everyone can learn more, because we have just some additional resources too. But before we do that, I want to give away some prizes, if that's okay.
That's why everyone's here, right?
Hey, well, yeah, of course. Let's be honest. No, of course not. They're here for you guys, and you guys have been great. And you've got some really cool additional resources that we're going to talk about in just a second. But the first giveaway, so we've done behind the scenes here, a little random drawing here. And the first giveaway, again, for this inflatable remote control shark, whoever wins this, I want to come over to your home or office and play with this too, because it's awesome. I'm going to buy one for myself. I miss this thing. Whoever wins this is going to get it and be like, Jonathan's an idiot. This thing is so dumb. Anyway, the winner for this is Daniel Foote. Daniel, congratulations, sir. You are going to have you're going to be the envy of your office and or neighborhood when you're flying around your inflatable shark here. So congratulations. We'll reach out with you to make sure that you get that. And then now let's go over to the security training challenge, right? And so for this, the winner that we have is actually, I looked up where to buy myself an inflatable flying shark. Jennifer, yes. You know what? You and I will go. We can work something out. Maybe we'll go in on one. But the winner for the security training, again, this is offered by Black Hills Information Security. It's going to be at the end of the month. This is a free slot. Ninja's got it. This one is going to you, Mikey. Michael O'Toole, you're the winner, my friend. And so congratulations, sir. I'll reach out to you and give you the information so you can collect your pass. And just let me know if you can't attend. We'll make sure that someone else can. But thank you guys for that. So before you jet, though, don't go away quite yet. We've got some upcoming stuff here. Dom, do you want to tee up this one? Our next live chat?
Yeah. So our next live chat will be on finding and hiring the best techs. Our last live chat, we had a lot of comments about that, kind of coinciding with the MSP pricing calculator. So this is going to be on Thursday, September 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. UTC. It's going to just really cover this kind of war that's going on for top tech talent. We all know that hiring is an issue in all industries right now. So come rejoin us then. We're going to have great guests on then too.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's scroll back up before everyone runs away. Mike, I'm unlocking that SharePoint link. I promise you, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And if nothing else, here, let me send you this link really quickly. So this will get you to that link. I don't know why it's not working, but if you go this is a link to Alex. this is Alex Field's site, IT Pro Mentor, which Alex is awesome. He's been on some of the stuff we've done before too, and that's where I got that Office 365 security checklist. So check that out and see if that works for you. But guys, let's start with David. You've got some additional resources here. You guys first got the email database, which I thought was awesome. You want to talk about that a bit, and then the report?
Yeah, so the email database, basically we update regularly with fresh fish that we've caught that have successfully reached inboxes. You can filter based on attack type. You can filter based on secure email gateway brand. So that's a pretty useful resource. There's the phishing overview white paper, which just contains a full summary of all of the trends that we're seeing develop. And just one final thing, we all know that MSPs, just like end customers, are always targets. So continuing the giveaway theme, we do have a not for resale, protect your own house promotion, where you can deploy our computer vision email detection capability for free. You can use our training tools for free in-house for as long as you're at least monetizing through with one of your own clients. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an amazing resource. So, and I'm going to be making sure that all those are included here. Art, how about yourself? So you guys have included.
Yeah, we have a tips for identifying phishing emails. You can brand yourself and start talking to clients about it. It's always good to educate and give away some free resources and start that conversation. And I think, one of the things that, we have a free trial. So if you wanted to check out our resources, if you go to breachsecurenow.com, there's a free trial that you can kick around and see how it goes. I'm also on LinkedIn a lot. I talk about security awareness training. I'm psychotic, so I post a whole lot. So, I talk about that, cyber insurance. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, I try to share as much information. I happen to be an MSP as well. So I try to keep both hats as a vendor and a fellow MSP. So, find me. And I'm also on a lot of the MSP Facebook groups.
Thank you guys both so much, David and Art. Really appreciate your time. Everybody should definitely check out both Breach Secure Now and Cofense. And Dom and Tom, guys, thank you again. Thank you everybody who took time out of your day to be part of the chat. You guys were great. Thanks to everybody who brought all these great questions, calling in from all over the world, Belgium, having lots of opinions about sharks and krakens. I love it all. Thank you guys so much. This is fun as always. And we can't wait to see you back on 2 Thursdays from now, which is going to be
September 2nd.
Great. All right.
Dom,
Thanks, guys.
John.
Oh, wait.
Quick.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Real quick. Wanted to mention Ninja is going to be at Build It Live, IT by Design Conference, Jersey City, August 30th, September 1st. And I will be leading a breakout on the second day that is going to be about breaking up with bad clients. And we've got a great takeaway, a checklist to help you if you need to exit a client. But I'm going to spend most of the time talking about how you retain clients and make them into great ones.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Yeah, I mean, this is our we're just getting back into live events, and we'll see. Hopefully they can keep on going. I don't know, but we're definitely doing this one, and it's going to be a great one. You're going to be there in Jersey, so anyone around in the area, hopefully you can make it there. I'll include a link to that in this doc, and then also that resource that we're providing. It's going to be available first for folks that are going to be there, and then we'll have to obviously bring it up on another future chat. Tom, you can go over it. But yeah,
looks like Cofense is at Built It as well. So,
there you go. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. That'll be a party. All right, guys. Thank you so much again. This is great. And stay safe out there. Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Right, thank you.
Bye now.